did not want to let this go without saying how much I enjoyed a 1 week Master Series. As long as we got that out of the way,
listen,
I'm good.
Listen, there wasn't a player. There wasn't. I mean, Francis Tiafoe knew the drill. He went from Houston on a Sunday and played Tuesday afternoon in Monte Carlo. It's not a decision he had to make. That's on him, right? But like this, you can't. I was texting with someone who's involved with the Masters 1000, and they're talking about scheduling and does this tournament really need a week or that week or whatever it was. And I'm going, that's a tough thing for you to ask because you're one of the people who are adding weeks to the calendar. Like everyone in tennis, and this is like kind of the PTPA's point, like misrepresented in a lot of places, but the overall arching thing where people are attracted to the conversation is that everyone's just firing in a circle and not, looking in the mirror. Which I think is right. But like, I don't know that I've found anyone who's not benefiting financially directly from the extended format of a Masters 1000 who says, you know what, we tried it. This is still a great idea. Not a single fucking person.
I was thinking about that.
And in tennis, we can disagree on everything as we've proven on this show.
Well, mind you, this is just an ATP 1000 too, right? So some of the 2 week ones, those are all ATP and WTA, correct?
Yeah. Monte Carlo can't handle it. The facility is not big enough to handle both. And it works out nicely in a week.
But I had asked you, I was like, oh, is there prize money? Because everyone was like, oh my gosh, Carlos won $1.1 million to win this thing. I was like, is Monte Carlo have like a larger prize option for the winner than everywhere else? And you're like, no. And we looked it up, and it's on average with Indian Wells and Miami and the other ones. And ultimately, when you think about it, those are all 2 weeks. This is 1 week. It's much better to go work a place for a week and make $1 million.
Are we talking about the overall or the price per day?
Yeah, that's
price per day gets chopped in half,
and it's tax free.
No, right? you know who's paying the price per day are the networks and the media rights are all being extended, but somehow that doesn't go to prize money. You know who really loves?
Yeah, actually, can we take a second on that
a little bit?
Can we take a second on that because I'm not naming names, but as soon as someone decides,
punchline. All right.
Oh, sorry.
Right. No, keep going.
Correct me, but I don't want this to get lost, and then we're gonna get back to the John's open mic night. But I think as soon as the tournaments layer on the 4 or 5 days, and I'll say this the wrong way, but the general sentiment is correct, and I know this from one of the rights holders broadcasters, they get locked into the price they're paying for like the last 4 days of the tournament. Like they're automatically locked in on the front end if they add 5 days, and it's valued the same as like the last 5 days in the most lucrative parts of the tournament, which is fucking insane. Like having no seeds playing on like the Thursday, 10 days before the final, valued at the same metric as the finals it's like
really?
Yeah. Is that your understanding, John?
You're totally right. No, that's one of the reasons. I mean, this is why if you want a Master Series event, that's one reason that you really like it. Yeah, exactly. And you're right that is not reflected in prize money. As long as you brought this up, we're kind of freewheeling. It's early April, right? I mean, we're in a good point to schedule for do this kind of thing. I was listening. Mark Cuban sells the Mavericks, right? And he says something like, I don't have this in front of me, but this is pretty close. He's like, 21 out of 24 years I own this team, we did not make money. And you say, well, why would you own a team if it has year-to-year operating losses? You say, oh, that's right, because it is appreciated, whatever it was, 20x from when he bought it in 1999 or 2000. So you're willing to take on these year-to-year losses when the asset as a sports property is appreciating the way it has, right? I mean, you'd be crazy to. And I'm thinking about this in terms of tennis. And I'm thinking now that these events are allegedly for sale, there was a Bloomberg story that, Ari Emanuel might be trying to package a deal to buy some of the WME events. And we talk about, Madrid. And I'm thinking these events are appreciating as assets, as sports assets tend to do. And so at some level, shouldn't the players be sharing in that? If the ATP is really a partnership and you have these tournaments that even if they have a couple, operating losses, 1 year is a little bit down and the next year might be positive. But if these events are worth $500 million, isn't it a bit of a problem that the players are not seeing that appreciation? You sort of brought this up and I've been thinking about it. So I throw it out there.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the metric, I mean, they're not, Cuban's different because he, has his money. There's an opportunity cost because it's locked up and he can't get anything out for a certain amount of time. But also, like, Cuban is able to sell the asset on the basis of the new TV contract that kicks in 2026 or 2027, Mike.
Yeah.
And he gets credit for that. So it's not even just the revenue year to year. It's like if they sign a TV deal for 3 years in the future, he can trade off of that. Like it's very simple. But yes, the players should get the benefit. And that's why we're looking at, like, the conversation isn't about we're really good in tennis, and it's the slams and it's the tours and it's everyone. Record prize money at the US Open, and they'll inch it above whatever the last record was. But all the while, if it's not on a percentage basis that exists, regardless of, the US Open did $1 billion just, on site last year. So, but if 15% was at 600 million, and shouldn't that be, it doesn't go in lockstep like the NBA, where it's whatever the split is now, 53-47. That's if it's $2 billion in revenue, or if it's $600 million in revenue, not as like, oh, we'll choose the prize money this year kind of as it goes. But they should obviously be participating in upside, which at this point they're participating in the upside of a given week, not a given decade.
Exactly. So the people that like the spread out man spread Masters events are the, whatever it is, seven tournaments, and then Reed Hastings and Netflix. I mean, these are a boon if you have Netflix stock, because that's all you do if you're a player and you're stuck in Toronto, Canada for 12 days before going to Cincinnati. I mean, point being, there's literally no one in tennis outside these Masters 1000 owners who I grant you are not insignificant figures, but I can't think of an issue that has near consensus dislike.
Well,
and yet here we are.
You parse that. Well, it's also, and I guess what I'm getting at, like with the percentages. So based on what I know about the rights holders for the Masters 1000s, if they make an extra 4 or 5 days of revenue, I'm not a mathematician, but if that's 11 days and you're up, 40% or something on whatever the TV rights is, but then you up the prize money pool 2% and throw a parade, there's a disconnect. And when there's not transparency about it. I only know this because I've had conversations with people I know kind of behind the scenes, but it's not transparent. Like, we're adding a week and then they bluff it as like, this is good for you. No, we're doing this because this is good for you. Shut up. Like this is for your health. We didn't ask you what would be good for your health, but we're pretty sure. We're pretty sure this is good for your health. We don't need your opinion on it, but this is good for you.
Well, and one thing,
you don't think using the Marriott gym for 6 days is optimal training in the middle of the season?
Well, hey, listen, you get rewards, right? Is that one of the?
Yeah,
that's it.
And a suitcase.
A suitcase.
Yeah, one of the things that also came out of Monte Carlo was, they were asked about if they were going to make it a joint event with the WTA, and I'd asked you about it because on its surface, you're like, all right, why isn't this a joint event? Why aren't we putting these thousands together? But really, there is an issue with facility and size, and that kind of leans into that. Can you kind of explain that? Because none of the articles really dive into that. They just kind of like, oh, they're looking at it.
Well, listen, combined events are great. We all love them. It's, if there's enough space, Indian Wells is maybe the best event of the year. And also, it's fine if Monte Carlo is built on the side of a hill. You literally have like a 400-foot drop from the bottom, which is center court, to the practice courts and some of the match courts that are up top. It's built on the side of a hill, so it's tiered down. You can't create more space. You just can't. And so even if they wanted to combine it and make it a 2-week event, they can't. Like, it's just not feasible. But like, also, that's okay. The women go through the Middle East in February and have a couple of 1000s. That's fine. Not everything has to be the same. Like, it's an imperfect calendar, cadence, different priorities. Like, you can't just make everything into a 2-week event. Space has to matter. And Monte Carlo, it's maybe the most beautiful stadium in the world. It wouldn't qualify. It got grandfathered in. It wouldn't qualify for a lot of the different things with locker rooms, stadium capacity that they now put if you want to, take a license for Masters 1000. If any of these trade, there are certain metrics that Monte Carlo wouldn't meet the thresholds in current times. They've been grandfathered in. Monte Carlo is a great event. Don't change a thing.
Can I give you a quick little stat that I found to be hilarious?
Please.
Indian Wells is the biggest tournament. It covers 52 acres. Monte Carlo as a country covers 69 acres.
Nice. That's a great stat.
That's a nice. That's a nice.
Mentality.
That's a nice.
That's a great. I mean, the other thing too, as long as I like this freewheeling April. On the same. This is sort of adjacent. This is also why people say, I don't understand. Why don't we have more Masters 1000s on grass? And it's for exactly the reason Andy said. I mean, there are a finite number of venues, Wimbledon being one of them, that can give you the practice courts, the locker room facilities, the parking, the hospitality. There are not a lot of grass venues that could live up to these sort of prerequisites that you have to have a Masters event. But that's a great stat. I mean, 69, wait, what'd you say? 69 acres?
69 acres, yeah.
Wow.
Beautiful.
The other thing about, like, say Masters Series on grass, yes, I've wanted that forever. Like, it should be the case. The courts at the end of Wimbledon are trashed. Like, they've the wear and tear of them. It's not as if, like, you can't practice on the courts more than, like, as a seated player. Roger Federer, the time he was going for his 6th win, could practice exactly 45 minutes a day on, like, the outer courts at Wimbledon. You don't get on stadium like you do at the other courts. It's untenable in grass. And they're like, well, just move it around early. I'm like, no, you can't move it. Like, the slams are kind of set in place for a reason. You can't just create new dates that don't have the ebb and flow, off of Paris. And that's largely dictated by weather. Like, you get some pretty shitty days in Paris, even in May, you get the rainouts and where you're not doing much for 2 or 3 days. It's based on weather. Like, grass has to grow, believe it or not. Like, you can't just move it to April. No, it's not possible. So there are some reasons, but also it's okay for these tournaments to live in their own silo as long as it's inside of a week. I would rather have them be in a silo, have their own character, than boil the ocean over 11 days. Failure. Every Masters. And also, I will provide the caveat, because people are like, well, Indian Wells is doing it. Indian Wells, you're flying. Think about where you're flying from when you're going to Indian Wells. You're either coming from Europe to California, or you're coming from the Middle East. Like, you have to have those 5 days of travel if you play in a final.
17 hours.
It's not the same as going from Madrid to Rome. It's not. You don't need 5 days to get from Madrid to Rome. You can do that in the morning. You can have the next day off, and you can play the next day. Like, there is sense to Indian Wells being an extended format a little bit, based on where you're traveling from the week before, which is Dubai or somewhere like that.